The massive ship called Eternal Harmony moved through space like a floating city. Its silver hull stretched for miles and carried representatives from hundreds of different worlds. Ambassador Zethkar stood on the main bridge watching the yellow star grow larger through the viewing screen. His forearms moved gracefully as he checked the diplomatic protocols one more time. This was supposed to be easy. It always was. For over 1,000 years, the Galactic Council had welcomed new species into their community. The process never changed. They would arrive at a primitive world, make contact with the local government, and explain the benefits of joining the galactic family. Within days or sometimes weeks, the new species would gratefully accept membership and submit to council authority. Zethkar had personally overseen the integration of 47 species. Each time the result was the same. The locals would be amazed by their advanced technology, overwhelmed by the promise of interstellar trade, and eager to gain protection from hostile forces in the galaxy. Nobody had ever refused their generous offer. The third planet from this star looked promising. The inhabitants called it Earth and had recently developed basic space travel. Their technology was crude but showed potential. Scans revealed a single, dominant species that had united most of their world under one government. Perfect conditions for a smooth integration. Captain Mordic, a tall creature with gray skin and large black eyes, approached the ambassador. His voice made clicking sounds as he spoke through the universal translator. "We are now in communication range, Ambassador. Shall we broadcast the standard greeting?" Zethkar nodded and activated the transmission array. The same message that had been used successfully for centuries began broadcasting toward the blue and green world below. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Galactic Council, representatives of 3,000 civilized worlds. We come in peace to welcome you into the galactic community. Please respond and identify your governmental authority so we may begin formal diplomatic relations." The bridge crew waited patiently. Usually primitive species needed several hours to overcome their shock and organize a response. Some took days to believe the contact was real. Zethkar used the time to review Earth's file. The humans had shown remarkable progress in recent decades. They had split the atom, reached their moon, and built orbital stations. Their military technology was advancing rapidly, though it remained centuries behind Council standards, 3 hours. Later, the communications officer announced an incoming transmission. The ambassador straightened his formal robes and prepared to deliver his welcoming speech. The viewing screen flickered and showed a middle-aged human male wearing a dark blue uniform with various insignia and ribbons. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," the human said in a calm, steady voice. "We received your message and appreciate you taking the time to contact us. However, we must respectfully decline your invitation to join your galactic community. Earth chooses to remain independent and govern itself. We hope you understand our position." The bridge fell silent. Zethkar stared at the screen in confusion. Several crew members looked at each other uncertainly. This had never happened before. The ambassador composed himself and leaned forward. "Admiral Morrison, I believe there may be some misunderstanding. We are offering your species membership in the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. You would gain access to technologies that would solve all your problems. Poverty, disease, energy shortages, environmental damage, all of these issues would disappear overnight. Surely you cannot refuse such benefits for your people." Admiral Morrison listened politely, then shook his head. "We appreciate the offer, but our answer remains the same. Earth will handle its own problems in its own way. We're not interested in joining any external authority or submitting to foreign control. Our planet has chosen to remain free and independent." Zethkar felt his 4 hearts beating faster. This was unprecedented. He activated his personal database and quickly searched through records of first contact with 3,000 species. Not one had ever refused membership. Not one had ever chosen to remain outside the galactic community. "Admiral, perhaps you don't fully understand what we're offering. The Galactic Council provides protection from hostile alien forces, access to interstellar trade networks worth trillions of credits, and technologies that would advance your civilization by thousands of years. In return, we ask only that you accept our guidance and follow established galactic law. This is hardly foreign control. It is membership in a benevolent organization dedicated to peace and prosperity. The human admiral smiled slightly. Ambassador, we understand your offer perfectly. We also understand that accepting would mean giving up our right to make our own decisions about our own world. That's not something we're willing to do at any price. Earth governs itself and intends to keep it that way. Other council members on the bridge began whispering among themselves. This was more than unexpected, it was dangerous. If word spread that a species could simply refuse council membership, other worlds might begin questioning their own relationships with the galactic government. Zethkar tried a different approach. Admiral Morrison, I must warn you that remaining outside the galactic community is extremely dangerous. There are hostile forces in this region of space. Pirates, raiders, and aggressive species that prey on isolated worlds. Without council protection, Earth would be vulnerable to attack. We'll take our chances, Morrison replied without hesitation. Humans have been dealing with threats and challenges for our entire history. We've never needed anyone else to fight our battles, and we don't intend to start now. The ambassador felt panic rising in his chest. This conversation was being recorded and would be reviewed by the High Council. If he couldn't convince these humans to join, his career would be over. Worse, the entire foundation of council authority might be threatened. Perhaps you would like time to consult with your government before making such a momentous decision, Zethkar suggested desperately. Admiral Morrison shook his head again. This decision was made by our entire planet after careful consideration. President Lisa Carter herself authorized me to deliver our response. Earth stands united in choosing independence over membership in your organization. The transmission ended abruptly. The bridge remained quiet as crew members processed what had just occurred. Captain Morduck finally broke the silence. Ambassador, what are your orders? Do we proceed with standard integration protocols? Zethkar stared at the dark screen where the human's face had been moments before. Standard protocols assumed willing cooperation from the contacted species. There were no procedures for handling outright refusal because refusal had never happened before. Maintain position in the outer system, he ordered. Send a full report to the High Council immediately and begin analyzing Earth's defenses. We may need to reconsider our approach to these humans. As the eternal harmony settled into orbit beyond the planet Pluto, Zethkar wondered if this strange species called humanity had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history, or if they had somehow seen something that 3,000 other worlds had missed. 3 months had passed since the humans first refused the Council's invitation. Ambassador Zethkar had tried everything he could think of to change their minds. He offered them medical technology that could cure all diseases. He promised them energy systems that would power their entire planet for thousands of years. He even showed them star maps revealing the locations of hundreds of habitable worlds they could colonize. Each offer received the same polite but firm response from Earth's government. President Lisa Carter personally sent messages explaining that humanity appreciated the generous offers but would remain independent. She thanked the Council for their patience and asked them to respect Earth's decision to govern itself. The High Council was growing impatient. Emergency sessions were being held daily as news of humanity's refusal spread through galactic communication networks. Several member species had begun asking uncomfortable questions about their own membership agreements. The Rigel Trade Union wanted to know why they needed Council approval for all their business deals. The Deneb Mining Collective questioned why they had to give half their profits to the Council treasury. Zethkar knew his career hung by a thread. Never in recorded history had a first contact mission failed so completely. He decided to try one. Final diplomatic approach before the High Council ordered more drastic measures. Meanwhile, Captain Ben Rodriguez guided his deep space exploration vessel through the dark region beyond Pluto. The ship was called Defiant and represented humanity's most advanced space technology. It was small compared to alien vessels but fast and well armed. Rodriguez and his crew of 30 humans were mapping the outer edges of their solar system when their sensors detected multiple ships approaching. "Captain, we have 5 unknown vessels moving toward us at high speed," reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Amy Chun. "They're not using any propulsion system we recognize." Rodriguez studied the sensor readings on his command screen. The ships were sleek and silver, much larger than his own vessel. Their technology appeared far more advanced than anything Earth had developed. "Open a communication channel and identify ourselves. Let them know we're on a peaceful mission." The response came immediately. A tall alien with pale blue skin and 3 eyes appeared on the main viewer. The creature wore an elaborate uniform covered in symbols and decorations. "Human vessel, you are ordered to shut down your engines and prepare for inspection. Under Galactic Council regulations, all ships operating in this space sector must submit to authority checks." Captain Rodriguez felt his jaw tighten. His orders from Earth Command were clear. No human ship would submit to alien authority under any circumstances. "This is Captain Ben Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Defiant. We are operating in our own solar system under the authority of the Earth government. We do not recognize Galactic Council jurisdiction in Sol space." The alien commander looked surprised. His 3 eyes blinked rapidly as he processed the human's response. "Captain Rodriguez, you appear to misunderstand the situation. All space within 50 light-years of Council territory falls under our jurisdiction. Your vessel must comply with inspection protocols immediately." Rodriguez stood up from his command chair and faced the viewing screen directly. "There seems to be a misunderstanding on your end. This is Sol space, claimed and defended by Earth. Your council has no authority here. We suggest you alter course and leave immediately." The alien fleet moved closer, surrounding the single human ship. Their weapon systems activated in energy. Readings spiked across the Defiant's sensors. The alien commander's voice became stern and threatening. "Captain, you have 10 minutes to comply with our orders. Failure to submit will result in the seizure of your vessel and the arrest of your crew." Rodriguez turned to his weapons officer. "Bring all systems online. Target their lead ship's weapon arrays." He faced the screen again with a calm expression. "You want to inspect us? Try it." The bridge of the lead council ship erupted in confusion. The single human vessel had not only refused their orders, but was actively targeting their weapons. This had never happened before. In over 1,000 years of Council operations, no species had ever dared to threaten their ships. Lieutenant Chun monitored the alien communications as they frantically contacted their superiors. "Captain, they're reporting back to their command that we're showing hostile intent. They seem genuinely shocked that we're not backing down." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Then they're about to learn something about humans they won't forget." He opened a channel to all 5 alien ships. "This is your final warning. You have entered Earth space without permission and threatened a human vessel. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawing, or we will consider your actions an act of war." The standoff continued for 6 hours. Neither side backed down, neither side fired the first shot. The Council ships maintained their positions around the Defiant while their commanders debated what to do. They had expected immediate submission, not defiance from a primitive species. Finally, the alien fleet began to retreat. Their commander appeared on screen one last time, his 3 eyes showing confusion and anger. "This matter is not finished, human. The Council will not forget this. Insult to our authority." Rodriguez watched the alien ships disappear into deep space before responding, "Neither will we." Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Brooks sat in her laboratory, analyzing intercepted alien communications. As the planet's leading expert on alien psychology and culture, she had been studying every transmission from the Council ships since their arrival. What she discovered made her blood run cold. The aliens weren't offering membership in a benevolent organization. They were demanding submission to a galactic empire. Every species that joined the Council had their population growth controlled through mandatory medical treatments. Their military capabilities were severely restricted, with most weapons confiscated or destroyed. Their cultural development was guided and shaped according to Council standards. Dr. Brooks compiled her findings into a report that would change everything. The Galactic Council wasn't interested in cooperation or mutual benefit. They wanted control. Complete, absolute control over every aspect of human civilization. When President Carter read the report, she immediately called an emergency meeting of Earth's military commanders. General Paul Wright, the head of planetary defense, listened to the intelligence briefing with growing alarm. "They're not diplomats," he concluded. "They're conquerors who use pretty words instead of weapons, at least initially." Within days, construction began on orbital defense platforms around Earth. Shipyards that had been building civilian vessels switched to military production. Every human settlement in the solar system received upgraded defensive systems and emergency protocols. The message was clear. If the Galactic Council wanted Earth, they would have to take it by force. And humanity would be ready for them. News of humanity's refusal spread through Council space like wildfire. For the first time in centuries, member species began questioning their relationship with the galactic government. On the mining world of Kepler Prime, workers gathered in secret meetings asking why they needed Council permission to expand their operations. The Centauri Trade Federation held emergency sessions wondering why half their profits disappeared into Council administrative fees. High Counselor Vexthal paced nervously in his private chambers aboard the Council's capital ship, his 8 legs clicked against the metal floor as he reviewed reports from across the galaxy. 17 different species had formally requested reviews of their membership agreements. 3 worlds had stopped sending their required tribute payments. The Arcturus Mining Guild had openly declared they would no longer seek Council approval for new excavation sites. This was a disaster beyond imagination. The entire foundation of Council authority rested on the belief that membership was inevitable and beneficial. If species could simply choose to remain independent, the whole system would collapse. Vexthal knew he had to act decisively before the situation spiraled completely out of control. He called an emergency session of the Inner Council, the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy. Representatives from the founding species gathered in the Great Chamber aboard the Eternal Harmony. Their forms varied wildly, from the crystalline Vorthan to the gas cloud nebulites, but their concern was universal. "The human situation has become critical," Vexthal announced as the session began. "Our intelligence networks report increasing unrest among member species. Some are openly questioning Council authority for the first time in their histories." Council member Zarthok, a massive creature with armor-like skin, slammed one of his 6 fists on the table. "This is what comes of tolerance and patience. We should have conquered these humans immediately instead of wasting time with diplomatic niceties. The humans have shown themselves to be unreasonably aggressive," added Council member Velinara, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "They actually threatened Council ships with violence. Such behavior cannot be tolerated." Vexthal activated a holographic display showing the Sol system. "I have made a decision. We will send a demonstration fleet to Earth, not to attack, but to show these humans the futility of resistance. When they see the true power of the Council, they will have no choice but to submit." The other Council members agreed immediately. A show of overwhelming force had worked countless times before. Primitive species would see hundreds of advanced warships and realize the impossibility of resistance. They would beg to join the Council rather than face destruction. Supreme Admiral Korth received his orders within hours. He was to assemble the largest fleet in Council history and position it at the edge of human space. The message would be clear. Without words, submit or face the consequences. Korth selected ships from 40 different member species, creating a force of 200 vessels that represented the military might of half the galaxy. As the massive fleet prepared to depart, Ambassador Zethkar requested a private meeting with High Counselor Vexthal. The diplomat had spent months studying human behavior and culture, and what he discovered troubled him deeply. "High Counselor, I must express my concerns about this military approach," Zethkar said carefully. "The humans are unlike any species we have encountered before. They do not respond to threats the way others do. Vextel dismissed his concerns with a wave of his upper arms. All species respond to overwhelming force, Ambassador. The humans are no different. They are simply more stubborn than most. With respect, I believe you are wrong, Zethkar replied. Human history is filled with examples of them fighting hopeless battles rather than surrendering. They seem to prefer death to submission. The High Counselor's eyes narrowed dangerously. Are you suggesting that Council authority is not absolute? That our fleet of 200 ships cannot compel one primitive world to surrender? Zethkar realized he had said too much. Questioning Council decisions was dangerous, even for a senior diplomat. Of course not, High Counselor. I simply wanted to share my observations for the fleet's preparation. Meanwhile, Commander Amy Sullivan stood on the bridge of the human patrol vessel, Guardian, watching long-range sensors track the approaching alien fleet. The massive formation was still 3 days away, but their intentions were obvious. This was not a diplomatic mission. Ma'am, we're detecting over 200 ships in that formation, reported her sensor operator, Lieutenant Don Parker. They're maintaining battle formation and their weapons are powered. Sullivan nodded grimly. Earth's early warning network had been tracking the Council fleet since it left their territory. President Carter had already activated full planetary defense protocols. Every human ship in the solar system was moving to defensive positions. Open a channel to Earth Command, Sullivan ordered. Inform them that the demonstration fleet will reach the outer system in 72 hours. The response came back immediately. Earth's government had prepared a message for the approaching fleet. Sullivan's small squadron of 12 patrol ships would deliver it personally. As the Council fleet entered the edge of soul space, they found the human vessels waiting for them. 12 small ships faced 200 massive warships in what should have been the most one-sided confrontation in galactic history. Supreme Admiral Korth opened a communication channel to the human ships. His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to instant obedience. Human vessels, you are ordered to withdraw immediately. This system is now under Council jurisdiction pending final negotiations with your government. Commander Sullivan responded calmly despite the overwhelming odds. This is human space under the protection of the Earth Defense Force. You are not welcome here. Leave immediately or we will consider your presence an act of war. The bridge of Korth's flagship fell silent. His crew stared at their screens in disbelief. 12 tiny ships were threatening a fleet that could destroy entire star systems. It was impossible, it was insane, and yet the humans showed no signs of backing down. Commander Sullivan, Korth said slowly, you are outnumbered nearly 20 to 1. Your ships are centuries behind our technology. Surely you cannot believe you can oppose this fleet. Sullivan's response became legendary throughout the galaxy. Admiral, you're absolutely right about the odds. But you're wrong about one thing. We're not trying to defeat your fleet. We're just here to make sure you understand the price of attacking our world. Captain Steve Mason aboard the human flagship, Liberty opened a channel to the entire Council fleet. People of the galaxy, you've been told that resistance to the Council is futile. You've been taught that submission is the only path to survival. We're here to show you that's a lie. Earth chooses freedom over safety, independence over comfort, and we'll fight for that choice no matter what the cost. The standoff began as two fleets faced each other across the darkness of space. The Council expected quick surrender. The humans prepared for battle. Neither side fully understood that the next few hours would change the course of galactic history forever. The tension in space grew thicker as both fleets held their positions. Supreme Admiral Korth studied the tactical display showing 12 small human ships arranged in a defensive formation between his massive fleet and the inner solar system. He had commanded Council forces for over 2 centuries and had never encountered such brazen defiance from a primitive species. Commander Amy Sullivan maintained her position aboard the Guardian, knowing that any sudden movement could trigger a battle that would determine Earth's fate. Her sensors showed the Council ships spreading into attack formation while keeping their weapons powered but not yet targeted. Both sides waited for the other to make the first move. The standoff might have continued for hours or even days, But fate intervened in the form of nervous Council ship Commander Veltar aboard the vessel Cosmic Justice. His species had joined the Council only 50 years earlier after a devastating war, and combat situations still triggered panic responses in his crew when Lieutenant Don Parker, aboard the Guardian, activated a routine sensor sweep to monitor the Council fleet's positions. The energy pulse registered on Veltar-S screens as an incoming weapon signature. His training took over, and he ordered his ship to fire defensive shots at what he believed was an attacking human vessel. The blue energy beams struck the Guardian's shields, causing the small ship to rock violently. Sullivan immediately opened communication channels to both fleets. Council ships, we are under attack. All human vessels, you are authorized to return fire. The Battle of Saul's Edge began with 12 human ships, engaging 200 alien vessels in the darkness beyond Pluto. What followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. Captain Steve Mason aboard. The Liberty immediately implemented tactics that Earth's military had developed specifically for fighting larger, more advanced opponents. Instead of meeting the Council fleet in traditional formation combat, the human ships scattered into the asteroid belt where their smaller size became an advantage. Lieutenant Commander Kate Phillips coordinated a three-dimensional attack pattern that confused Council formations designed for conventional space battles. Her ship, the Dallas, dove beneath the enemy fleet while the Boston and Miami attacked from above. The Council ships found themselves trying to track multiple, fast-moving targets through a field of spinning rocks and ice. Supreme Admiral Korth watched in growing frustration as his overwhelming numerical advantage seemed to matter less with each passing minute. His ships were designed to fight other large vessels in open space, not chase small fighters through debris fields. The humans used every asteroid, every chunk of ice, every piece of space junk as cover for hit-and-run attacks. The Council's advanced weapons were powerful enough to destroy human ships with single hits, but they couldn't target what they couldn't track. The humans appeared from behind asteroids, fired quick bursts at Council vessels, then disappeared again before return fire could find them. Captain Rick Adams commanded the destroyer New York, one of Earth's newest and most heavily armed ships. When 3 Council vessels cornered him in a clear section of space, he faced a choice between retreat and certain destruction. Adams chose a third option that shocked both fleets. "This is Captain Adams to all human ships," he transmitted as enemy fire overwhelmed his shields. "Earth remembers its heroes." The New York accelerated directly toward the Council flagship, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. Supreme Admiral Korth watched in disbelief as the burning human ship approached his vessel on a collision course. His crew fired desperately, trying to destroy the New York before impact, but Adams had disabled his ship's safety systems and rerouted all power to engines and structural integrity. The collision sent shockwaves through both fleets. The massive Council flagship listed heavily to one side, its main weapon systems destroyed and its command structure severely damaged. Captain Adams and his crew of 40 humans died in the impact, but their sacrifice crippled the enemy's most powerful vessel. The psychological effect on the Council fleet was devastating. For the first time in their military history, they faced an enemy willing to die rather than surrender. Human ships continued their guerrilla attacks while transmitting Adams' final message throughout the battle zone. Lieutenant Commander Phillips used the confusion following the collision to coordinate a concentrated assault on the Council's command ships. 5 human vessels converged on a cluster of alien command cruisers, targeting their communication arrays and weapon systems. The attack was so sudden and precise that 3 Council ships were disabled before they could respond. Dr. Mary Johnson monitored the battle from Earth's military command center while simultaneously tracking galactic communication networks. What she observed was almost as important as the battle itself. News of the fighting was spreading throughout Council space, and the reactions were unprecedented on dozens of member worlds. Populations were gathering to watch live transmissions of the battle. For the first time in centuries, they were seeing Council ships being damaged and destroyed by an opponent who refused to submit. The psychological impact was enormous. The Rigel Trade Union sent a coded message expressing support for human independence. The Centauri Trade Federation began mobilizing their own defense fleets. Even species that had been council members for hundreds of years started questioning why they had never been allowed to defend themselves. As the battle continued, Supreme Admiral Korth realized that military victory might not be enough. Even if he destroyed every human ship, the damage to Council authority was already catastrophic. Half the galaxy was watching a primitive species fight the most powerful military force in known space to a standstill. Commander Sullivan's ship took heavy damage during a close encounter with 2 Council destroyers, but she managed to escape into an asteroid field where repairs could be made. Her crew worked frantically to restore weapons and shields while she coordinated the overall human strategy. All ships concentrate fire on their command vessels, she transmitted. Make them pay for every inch of space they take. The battle raged for 18 hours. When it finally ended, the Council fleet was in full retreat toward the edge of the solar system. They had lost 63 ships, including their flagship, while the humans had lost all 12 of their vessels. But the real victory wasn't measured in ships destroyed. Admiral Morrison's voice reached the retreating Council fleet from Earth's orbital defense platforms. You came here expecting submission. Instead, you found free people willing to die for their independence. Remember this lesson. Freedom isn't something you can negotiate away, and it isn't something you can take by force. The Battle of Sol's Edge was over, but its consequences were just beginning. Across the galaxy, member species were asking themselves why they had never been allowed to fight for their own freedom. The Council's age of unquestioned authority was ending, and a new era was about to begin. 6 months after the Battle of Sol's Edge, the galaxy looked completely different. The Galactic Council's authority had crumbled like a house built on sand. Species that had been members for centuries were either demanding new agreements or declaring complete independence from Council control. The Andorian Republic was the first to break away. Their leaders announced that they no longer recognized Council jurisdiction over their territory and would govern themselves according to their own laws. Within days, they sent ambassadors to Earth requesting a mutual defense agreement with humanity. President Lisa Carter stood in the rebuilt United Nations building in New York City as she welcomed the first alien diplomats to visit Earth as equals, rather than conquerors. The Andorian delegates were tall, elegant beings with silver skin and large eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. "President Carter," said Ambassador Kalinara, speaking through a translation device, "our people have watched your species with great admiration. You showed us that freedom is possible even when facing impossible odds. We come here not as subjects, seeking protection, but as free beings seeking friendship." Carter smiled as she shook the alien diplomat's four-fingered hand. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We're honored to have you here as our equals and friends." The ceremony was broadcast throughout both human and Andorian space, showing 2 species meeting as partners rather than ruler and subject. The message spread quickly through galactic communication networks, inspiring other worlds to take similar steps toward independence. Colonel Matt Turner found himself in an unexpected role as humanity's first military advisor to alien worlds. The former Marine officer now traveled between star systems, teaching defensive tactics to species that had been forbidden from maintaining their own armies for generations. On the mining world of Tau Ceti Prime, Turner stood before a group of former Council security officers who had never been allowed to develop real military strategies. Their previous role had been limited to maintaining order and suppressing dissent, not defending their world from external threats. The key to successful defense is not having the biggest weapons, Turner explained to his alien students. It's about making any attack so costly that your enemies decide it's not worth the effort. The Council relied on fear and overwhelming force because they never expected serious resistance. The former Council officers listened intently as Turner described guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, and the importance of popular support for any defensive effort. These concepts had been forbidden knowledge under Council rule, Considered too dangerous for member species to learn, Captain Ben Rodriguez, now promoted to Admiral of the newly formed Free Worlds Alliance fleet, watched a formation of ships from 20 different species conduct joint training exercises in space near Earth. Each vessel flew the flag of its homeworld alongside the blue banner of the Alliance. Symbolizing unity without submission, the Alliance operated on principles completely opposite to the old Council system. Members maintained their independence and made their own decisions about internal affairs. They cooperated on mutual defense and trade, but no central authority could override local governments or impose universal laws. Rodriguez opened a communication channel to address the mixed fleet during their exercises. Remember, we're not here to conquer or control anyone. We're here to make sure that every world has the right to choose its own path. That's what freedom really means. Meanwhile, Ambassador Zethkar sat across from President Carter in the same New York office where he had once expected to receive humanity's surrender. The former Council diplomat had requested asylum on Earth after being declared a traitor by his own government for refusing to support military action against rebel worlds. "I must ask you something that has troubled me for months," Zethkar said, his forearms gesturing nervously. "How did you see what we truly were when so many other species accepted our control willingly?" Carter leaned back in her chair and considered the question carefully. "Because we've seen tyranny before, Ambassador. We fought it, defeated it, and learned to recognize it no matter how it's packaged. Our history taught us that freedom isn't about being strong enough to resist oppression. It's about being willing to pay the price for independence, no matter how high that price might be." The former Council diplomat nodded slowly. "And that price was the lives of brave humans like Captain Adams and his crew." "That's right," Carter replied. "But their sacrifice wasn't just for Earth, it was for every world that wanted to be free, but didn't know how to break their chains." The conversation was interrupted by an aide who announced that representatives from the Centauri Trade Federation had arrived for treaty negotiations. Like dozens of other former Council members, they wanted to join the Free Worlds Alliance and establish trade relationships based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Dr. Mary Johnson continued monitoring galactic communications from her position as Earth's chief intelligence analyst. The report she compiled painted a picture of rapid political transformation throughout known space. The old Council controlled barely 30 worlds now, down from their previous 3,000 members. More importantly, the remaining Council worlds were experiencing internal unrest as their populations demanded the same freedoms they saw other species enjoying. The Council's response was predictable but ultimately self-defeating. They imposed stricter controls and harsher punishments, which only drove more species to seek Alliance protection. Commander Amy Sullivan, now serving as Earth's military liaison to new Alliance members, received a priority transmission while visiting the recently liberated world of Kepler Prime. The message came from an unexpected source, a group of rebel commanders within Council space itself. "Commander Sullivan, this is Colonel General Morthuk of the Vegan Liberation Front," the transmission began. "We have studied your tactics from the Battle of Saul's Edge and successfully used them to free our home system from Council control. We request Alliance membership and military assistance to help other enslaved worlds achieve their independence." Sullivan smiled as she authorized the response. The revolution that had begun with humanity's simple refusal to submit was now spreading throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Every freed world inspired others to seek their own liberation. The final blow to Council authority came when High Counselor Vexel himself appeared on galactic communication networks to announce his government's surrender. The once mighty leader looked defeated and broken as he spoke from his heavily guarded fortress world. "The Galactic Council hereby recognizes the independence of all former member worlds and acknowledges the legitimacy of the Free Worlds Alliance," he said in a voice that shook with barely controlled anger. "We will withdraw from all disputed territories and cease all military operations." President Carter responded to the announcement from Earth's capital with words that became the founding principles of the new galactic order. We never wanted to destroy the council or conquer anyone. We simply wanted the right to govern ourselves and the freedom to choose our own destiny. Today, that right belongs to every intelligent species in the galaxy. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the first joint celebration of Liberation Day being broadcast from hundreds of worlds simultaneously. Former slaves and their descendants celebrated alongside the humans who had shown them that freedom was possible. As he looked out at a formation of ships from dozens of different species, all flying under their own flags while united in common cause, Rodriguez reflected on how much had changed since that first day. When humanity simply said no to galactic authority, the Council had promised order through submission. Humanity had offered something far more valuable, the chance to be truly free. The galaxy had made its choice, and freedom had won.